What is going on, guys? My name is Tubby Moose. It's a little later than I wanted it to be, but let's break down last night's Monday Night Raw, the Raw after Mania, which we saw a couple big things happen. Now, first, let me talk about this because it was overshadowed by Undertaker's retirement, rightly so. The Hardy Boys back in the WWE. I'm going to say this, I'm going to say this again. I am damn glad these Hardy Boys are back in the WWE. The work that they've put in the last couple years, traveling the country, getting back in shape, really becoming a force again in the tag team wrestling world is huge. Because like I said in the other video, I remember seeing Matt Hardy in Eau Claire at Heavy On Wrestling in it wasn't pretty. And then now you see Matt Hardy. It looks like he's having the most fun of his career, and I love the fact that the Hardys are back, and especially with their match against Luke and Carl, did a hell of a job, and now Sheamus and Cesaro are your number one contenders heading into Payback pay-per-view. So, the fact that the Hardys are back in this shape, in this condition, gets me so excited. So to see them back on Monday Night Raw last night, it was a pretty big pop for me, again, after seeing them at Mania. And I have to be honest with you, I think it's awesome. Now, their Raw debut was then overshadowed a little later on in the night because of the New Day. The New Day comes out. They were the hosts of WrestleMania. They want to fight. They're going to host an open challenge. And as sure as shit, finally, no flips, just fists. The top guys debut in WWE. I am so happy the Revival is on the main roster. And I'm going to tell you this. If you are a fan of tag team wrestling, if you're a fan of psychology, what it takes to build a match, there is nobody better in WWE right now than the Revival. The Revival's close spots match, any of that in any singles matches, their tag team matches are absolutely phenomenal. If you've never watched NXT, you are doing yourself a disservice, especially when it comes to the Revival. I highly suggest you check out some of their work and see what the Revival are capable of, because the fact that the Revival are finally on Monday Night Raw is a big deal. I mean, it really, like, if I could put it on a scale here and really talk about this, the level that I would put this on would probably be, I'm trying to think, like when American Alpha debuted, that was huge, right? And I love American Alpha and still to this day do. But the Revival is farther up there. And I'll say that because I remember when Scott Dawson first got hurt, when him and Dash Wilder first started working together, I was already a huge Scott Dawson fan going back to the Sylvester Lefort days and everything he was doing down in NXT. I've always been on the Dawson bandwagon. You can go back and find my tweets just praising Dawson, wanting him to get back from injury. So the fact that he is here with Dash Wilder, they're on the main card, super freaking excited. Like, I love DIY. I love, the authors of Pain doing a hell of a good job. But when it comes to getting a tag team on the roster that I want, it is definitely the Revival. The Revival will provide those spots, those hype, those crazy. I worry a little bit, though, because of how tag team wrestling has kind of been lately, especially over on SmackDown Live, where you have the Usos and American Alpha, which is a great freaking storyline, and they didn't even follow up at WrestleMania because of the Battle Royale. There was already too many matches, and you saw how long WrestleMania ran, now knowing why they didn't add in another match. So I have to be honest with you, now that the Usos didn't get in there, that's kind of crazy, but I would love to see the Revival, the Usos, American Alpha all over on SmackDown. Get rid of some of the smaller tag teams that really aren't really doing anything over on SmackDown Live. I was a big fan of the Vaudevillains back in the day. I still think the Ascension could do some stuff. But when it comes to quality tag team wrestling, you're not going to get better than the Revival. So welcome to WWE Dash and Dawson. Then let's talk about, obviously, the big thing. We'll start off the show is obviously Roman Reigns stood in the middle of the ring for 12 minutes. Didn't say anything. The crowd went absolutely nuts, and when he finally spoke, it was 5 words. This is my yard now. And that's it. And he waited and waited, and I was like, damn. That's really saying something. That's you just listen to the crowd. You love him, you hate him. He had a huge freaking response, and I know that's just because of the Rockets crowd for Raw, but I have to be honest with you. Roman Reigns, it'll be interesting to see what happens next. And he hinted later on in the night, Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. They kind of brought him up, and then Braun Strowman came out, which was huge too. So that happened. Then let's talk about the big one that I tweeted out. I tweeted out before Meltzer had said anything that your spoiler for this year, like I had Shane McMahon in the building last year or 2 years ago. was the fact that Kurt Angle was coming back to the WWE. Not only is he coming back, he is now your Raw GM. And they did it really well, as Vince McMahon was out in the ring, said he'd be open to a shakeup. And then he said, you know, SmackDown and Raw can commence trading next week. Maybe it's something like a draft, make some moves next week in like a free agency period, which is huge. And we'll have to wait and see who debuts, if anybody debuts on SD Live tonight, because they could debut on SD Live, but they could end up getting put over on Raw. So when I joked about that, I was like, you know, Asuka's been traveling with SD Live superstars. To debut on SD Live and then get traded over to Raw wouldn't, you know, be the worst thing in the world. But when you look right now, when Vince McMahon was out in the ring and was like, he's a former Hall of Famer, and then Teddy Long's music hit, part of me went, yes. Yes. Especially with tag teams with Dash and Dawson and Dash Wilder. Yeah. I thought I just messed that up. I was actually really excited for a second, and then obviously he booed him out of the way. Vince stopped him, and then Kurt was like this shy up there, and then finally Vince McMahon's like, Kurt Angle, and the crowd just lost it. I'm very glad Kurt Angle is back in the WWE. And I know a lot of people are really ticked off right now, because right now we're in a weird angle. WWE has more independent and smaller superstars on the roster than ever, but they are using the part-timers and old names more than ever. So it's like best of both worlds. You have, you know, guys coming back to the WWE, such as Drew McIntyre. You have the Hardys back in WWE now. Hopefully Adam Cole, baby, at some point. I would love to see Adam Cole versus Y2J. I think that'd be freaking insane. Baby! He could pass down the baby to Adam Cole. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now that gets you really excited. So when Kurt Angle was announced as the GM, I have to be honest with you, I popped. I was huge for that, because Kurt Angle is freaking rad. And the fact that he's the GM, I mean, he can still go. Like this is what I had speculated. I said, put him as the GM, and you could have him get pushed and prodded to eventually having one match at maybe SummerSlam. He could get hurt. He could leave TV for a while, and then he could come back, you know, around Royal Rumble time. Or he could just be the GM all year. Now that you know Mick Foley's fired, Mick Foley's leaving. He's got the surgery, which they just announced that they were pushing back his surgery another week. So it'll be crazy to see what happens when finally Kurt Angle either steps into the ring or just stays as GM. I think they're going to provide a lot of great moments. So now Kurt Angle's your GM, and it was supposed to be Chris Jericho and Seth Rollins versus Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens later on in the night in the main event, and they took out Chris Jericho backstage, which left Kurt Angle having to find Seth Rollins a partner. And I don't care if it's even predictable. I was still hoping for the heel turn. Part of me was still waiting for it. But I definitely still see money in Finn, so there's really no reason for Finn to be a bad guy right now. As much as I wanted, and I had speculated for my fantasy booking that him with the club or him with the Baylor Club Worldwide, whatever, would be a part of it. But now if you look, most of the guys are in WWE now, which is really crazy to see. The fact that, you know, just a couple nights ago, the Hardys with the Young Bucks were in ROH the night before WrestleMania in a ladder match, and then the Hardys won in WrestleMania in a ladder match. You don't know who's going to show up where, who's going to show up when. So it'd be crazy to see some of the original Baylor Club members just show up at some point with him down the line. But he was Seth Rollins' tag team partner. Seth Rollins was definitely selling the knee. For a guy with a bum knee, I have to be honest with you, he was really doing a lot of moves, doing some crazy stuff. So Finn Balor being back is huge. I know the crowd popped. And when he finally came out and he was kind of isolated most of the match, he eventually hit the coup de grace on Kevin Owens for the win. And Michael Cole tried to stop himself. He was like, he almost said something about becoming the United States champion, and then he actually stopped himself and said that he beat him and could possibly put him in contention. So it's definitely something to kind of keep your eyes on if they're going to have Finn Balor versus KO. Because like I said, everybody's thinking that it's a huge demotion for KO. But if you look at Roman Reigns, and I'm not going to compare Roman Reigns versus KO because that's two completely different ballparks. But what I was saying was we had a history of guys going from the World Heavyweight Championship finally back down to the mid-card title to try to elevate it. John Cena, Roman Reigns, and now KO. So you've had guys drop from the World Championship or the Universal Championship back down to the regular U.S. title, the mid-card titles, to try to re-elevate them. And all I had said, look at Roman Reigns. He was the champion. He dropped down to U.S. champion, helped try to put over Rusev, eventually dropped it to Jericho. and then eventually beat The Undertaker. And look at KO. He was the Universal Champion, dropped to the United States, and now could be facing guys like Finn Balor. Because it's very interesting. Everybody was pissed that KO lost last year, but if you think about it, Finn Balor was supposed to be in the spot. Had Finn Balor not gotten hurt, would Finn Balor have dropped the title to Goldberg? So, and then the other thing I wanted to talk about was the fact we finally got Emma. I know the crowd actually kind of popped for Emma last night, which is pretty crazy to think about when you actually, like, finally she was there. Like, finally, it was the same old Emma. Like, come on. And then last but not least was Goldberg on Raw Talk afterwards. Basically, he came out and said that it was kind of the end. For the most part, you know, it was worth it. And that he would keep on doing it if his family still respected and was proud of him. But as for right now, it's done, but never say never, which is pretty crazy to see. Another quick note I want to put over Mustafa Ali. I thought did a great job against Neville. And I think that'll pretty much wrap it up. You know, Braun Strowman got eliminated in the Andre the Giant Battle Royale early. He came out to Brock. And again, you're being elevated by association. He was in the ring with Taker. He was in the ring with Roman Reigns. Yes, he's not getting those opportunities now. But you're wanting to see him more and more. And you kind of popped when Braun came out. So I think that's what we're leaving for right now. It'll be very interesting to see what happens going forward, especially with Kurt Angle as GM. But the fact that Finn's back, a lot of people were pissed off that Samoa Joe wasn't there. You have Sheamus and Cesaro. You have the trades, the drafts coming up next week. So I'm really excited. So let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below of Monday Night Raw. For the most part, I love the fact that Kurt's back as GM. I love the fact that Finn's back. And it was actually a really good Raw. I thought it could have been a little bigger. I mean, I don't want to say anything, but I was hoping for one more thing to happen, and it didn't happen. But, you know, it's not the end of the world. So until next time, guys, my name is Toby. Let me know what you thought in the comment section below. We'll see you back after SD Live tonight, and we will see you all